Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Woo. Getting into the quantum. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warriors Network. Jewels, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm really happy for you to be here, and I'm going to tell you why. And I told you I was going to wait until we started the show. I've been doing the show for over 3 years, and it's all about ascending in the Great Awakening. And I so appreciate who ends up coming on the show every week because it helps with my evolution. It helps with my people that listen to the show, their evolution. You are next level. And the timing of you personally for me is incredible. So I did 2 of your exercises last night, the rainbow exercise, and then also we're going to talk about today. So everybody listening, I really, this is next level. Okay, so worked on the 963 hertz frequency and awakening the quantum body, and we will talk about the role of DMT, which is just amazing. So those exercises and just listening to you over the past week, I'm changed. Okay, and knowing that in this ascension right now, every week I'm different, but this just took another leap. So y'all, it is really important, I think, to tune in today. So Jewels knows I'm going to read her bio in a minute. We're going to get started. Yet I wanted to mention 2 weeks ago now, I did a podcast on my new divine relationship, and I just wanted to give a nod that that's still going on. And for those who are entering into this or considering entering into it, it is all consuming in terms of breaking old patterns and programming and the divine feminine and masculine. It's a lot. Super good, super challenging at times. But whoa. Yeah. Okay. So just to give it a nod on that. Okay. Jules just gave me a thumbs up for those who are just listening. Let me introduce you. Okay. Jewels Arnes in Colorado is a pioneer leading in DNA ascension, merging quantum science and spirituality to accelerate human evolution. As the founder of Becoming BioQuantum, she develops advanced scalar frequency products and tools designed to activate cellular transformation. Featured on The Human Upgrade and author of BioQuantum and BioQuantum Arnes. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, alchemy. Jewels is a trusted expert in conscious evolution. Through her Ascension Academy products and teaching, she empowers individuals to unlock their highest potential. Her mission, and I read this seriously with all my energy, is to ascend the body, mind, and reality by awakening DNA, opening the gateway to limitless possibilities through the advanced human experience. Oh, that's all. Okay, my first question for you, Jewels. Okay, in Discovering the Matrix, I know you beautifully and vulnerably, and one podcast that I watched, or one show that you did about starting with hallucinogenics at 18. And I love the story about you going into high school. Was that the beginning of your awakening? Yeah, can you talk about that just a little?
Yeah, so I would say I was born awake. I kind
Okay.
of always knew that I was different, but I didn't really know how different I was until I hit middle school. And that's when I realized that not everybody saw the world in the way that I did. Not everybody experienced, I guess you could say, I realized not everybody was awake. So I always knew that I was a little bit different because I would say things and my parents would be like, no, 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 or a little, and I always like wondered like, what is that all about? Right. And I also was very aware that I had my own way of getting through the world. And an example of that is I
Yeah.
actually didn't start reading until I was almost in third grade, but nobody knew that I wasn't reading because I was so intuitive that I could actually pick up on the energy of the room, and I got by until we started doing more serious testing and that sort of thing. And then they discovered that I actually didn't know how to read. I have a learning disability. And so that was just like one thing that kind of came through. But it was when I was in sixth grade that it really hit me that, okay, so people don't create decisions based on processing through things from a multidimensional space, and that they're just reacting to life. I had no idea that that's what I was in until I hit sixth grade. And then it did get really lonely because I felt, I think a lot of light workers feel that way,
Yeah.
is that they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm in this foreign country and I'm the only one that's speaking this language.
So what when you did you talk to other kids your age and it was just like it didn't like communication was hard? Like can you give more specific examples of that? And in
It
sixth
was
grade too.
Yeah, it was more observation. I was,
Okay.
I would have somebody do something mean to me, let's say.
Yeah.
And so I was able to kind of take my consciousness out of the experience, and just like we do, we read energy, right? And so I was
Yeah.
able to start reading the energy. And it wasn't until I had experiences where people were doing things that, you don't see that kind of stuff in elementary school. Like everyone just kind of loves their teachers and we all get along. And it wasn't until we kind of got into this dynamic of the popular people and these different dynamics that you see kind of when you go into sixth to eighth grade, and people started having the hormones and all these different things that different the dynamic changes with interaction and communication. And it was then that I realized, okay, I need to explore what this is all about, because I was in my kind of fairyland where everybody loved each other, and then I found out that that wasn't true.
Was that did that come to you quickly? Were you just like, holy smokes, or did you see that evolve over time?
Oh no, it was pretty much like somebody turned the light on. And so it
Oh
did hit
man.
me in a really intense way. But I kind of worked through it in middle school. Was really school was always really hard for me because I was always just like, what is this all about? Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing here? And I actually didn't even finish high school. I was kicked out of the house when I was actually 16. And that's when I had my next awakening, because I did a light body activation with one of my boyfriends at the time. And in that light body activation, I had the memory of the technology that I use and what it was for, and what we were doing. And I knew that, okay, this is what I'm here for. And everything just started opening up after that. And I just went on my own path of discovering what it was to actually read energy, but also
Yeah.
to activate a frequency in the DNA.
Okay, so go back to the minute. You were kicked out of the house at 16. How did you deal with that? What did you have that boyfriend at the time and y'all moved in together? Yeah, how did you handle it?
Yeah, it was hard. I got kicked out for doing drugs. Shocker. And I ended up like, I actually, for almost a week and a half, I lived in the basement of a drug dealer's house with another girl that was homeless. And we kind of like would hold each other's hands, and we would protect each other at night. And it was about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks later, that I moved in with a friend of mine, and we ended up getting an apartment together. And I know at such a young age, but
Yeah.
I made it. And but it was is what brought me to AA. I started AA, and that's where I met my first teacher and discovered that what I was seeing was real. She had the Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light sitting on the coffee table,
Yes.
and I said, "That's I know this. And she's like, you're a seer, you're a healer, you know. And so she started teaching me how to read energy.
Okay, so come on to AA. That's where it happened. That
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. I mean, they just show up. They show up in crazy, unexpected places and ways. That is so neat. That is so neat. Okay, so about when you were doing hallucinogenics, I love that one story you talked about in high school that you were doing it in a different way. Can you explain that for just a moment?
Yeah, you know what I love to do is I would do hallucinogenics and just go put myself in situations where I had to master consciousness. And
Dang.
so a lot of times when you do hallucinogenics, and I think that there's a mastery behind it, is that you get either what I would call behind it or above it. And that's what I would do. So every time the hallucinogenic would try to pull my consciousness into, oh, look at the pretty lights, or kind of just going and letting it take over you, I
Mhm.
would do the opposite, is that I would use the intensity of it as a way to allow my consciousness to actually master it. And so I would put myself in situations where that wouldn't be an easy thing to do. And school was one of those. So I would walk the halls and I would just consistently have to use the hallucinogenic to master my consciousness so that when I would be in an interaction or I would talk with somebody, that I could hold it above the trip, is what I would say, and be able to interact in a very normal way without anybody even knowing that I was on a hallucinogenic. And but what I loved about it is that it in that there was a mastery, and that's where we're all trying to get to, is how do I hold my consciousness in the purest frequency, and above the trip is a very pure frequency. It's what I would call source frequency, and it's not that the hallucinogenic is doing it, it's just allowing the experience to, if you master it, you go to that pure state of consciousness. Because if you think about it, if you're not in the trip or in real life, if you're not in the thoughts, you're in pure frequency. And so it was a way that I would master consciousness, and I was addicted to it. I loved it.
Okay, I have to quickly mention I've had a lot of people on the show. Um, all realms of people declaring that they're ascended. I guess that's the best way to put it. I can really feel, because I always ask for people listening to the show to be very discerning. Yeah, you feel real. And I love it too. I am very noticing when I meet people before we start recording how they interact with me. And you just have this really nice, welcoming spirit. So thank you. Thank you. And we need more people right now who are the real deal and who are really working on stuff. So can we go to your friend Vale passing and discovering more about DMT?
Yeah. Oh, you're getting me chills. I just felt him come in. So everyone, at first I want to clarify something, because I think this is just a really interesting thing, because when people hear the word veil, they think of the veil, right? And his name is actually spelled Vale, as in Vail, Colorado. It's a ski resort, and that's where he grew up, in Breckenridge area. But his so he was a friend of our families for oh gosh, like kindergarten to this is my kids, kindergarten all the way through college. And on his 22nd birthday he passed away. He was given penicillin at the hospital and he's allergic to it and passed away.
Jeez.
And I'm getting chills so much. Like I just really feel him coming in. So I just want to take a moment to really let everybody feel into his energy. Oh my gosh, this doesn't happen very often. It's like almost taking me over right now. Um, so after he died, uh, it's funny because I couldn't even remember what he looked like. It was the weirdest thing. It's like when I was tapping into him, it was just this voided space, and I just allowed it to happen. And it was a couple of days later, I was in my kitchen and he came, and like, just like you're sitting right here in front of me, he was right there in the kitchen. And he said, get a piece of paper
Okay. Had
and
you
get
had experiences like this before?
I've
Or is
had
this your
it
first?
I had it one other time, but never in a way where I was
Mhm.
actually getting dictation. I've had Dolores Cannon has come to me in physical after she passed away. That was
Oh my
actually
God.
my first interaction, was when I didn't even know who she was, and I didn't know she had passed away, and she came to me.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Love her. Oh, that's amazing.
But
Nice.
anyways, yeah. So it was so there he was, and I was sitting there, and he just started spouting out all the stuff. He was like, I want, and it was almost like he kind of took over my hand, because I was drawing like sacred geometry and equations, and he was explaining to me what the equations meant as I was writing it out, and what the sacred geometry meant as I was writing it out. And it's very like multidimensional in quantum. When you're in that field, there is nothing linear about it. So you can get a lot of different information, and it feels very coherent and not a linear way. So I was able to
Yeah.
absorb a lot of information, and but it did go on for almost an hour. And after I was done, he said, this is the equation of cell ascension. This is how the body will ascend. And a big part of that was using the frequency of DMT. And so one of the things he showed me is that when we're born and that chemical is released from the pineal gland, the frequency of that is turning on, or is transcribed, if you will, into our DNA. And he was showing that it has the frequency, or the information, the intelligence of source. And he showed what the way that we're operating right now is that we wait until we die, and that frequency is released, or the chemical is released again in the body when we die, and it leaves the DNA and moves out of form, and then our consciousness will follow it, and we have the experience of death. And what he said is that that is not the way our body is meant to operate. And because we're operating in a two-strand DNA system, we feel our consciousness is separate from the actual 12-strand DNA system. And the 12-strand DNA system holds the frequency of source, and that we have the ability to bring our consciousness into that 12-strand DNA system and begin to operate just like a technology that is a technology of source. And so that we're not supposed to die in order to experience what that is in the biology. Our biology is a divine system. And so with that, he gave the equation of how we actually ascend the body and become what I would call quantum biology, or you could say bioquantum.
So when you were dictated, and I watched one of your shows a while back, and you were talking about this, I listened to it 3 times, like I to really comprehend it. So when it was dictated to you, what did you do with that information, and how long did it take you to get it out there? Yeah, what happened from that point?
It was a lot, because as soon as I left the field that he was holding for me to be able to do that
Yeah.
in, I looked back on my paper and I was just like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this? Right. And so it took actually, so that happened in 2022 is when he passed away.
Okay.
And it wasn't until just very recently, and I'm going to
Wow.
say there's still one piece that isn't completely locked in, but that I finally was like, okay, now I get it. And a lot of what I had been already doing was a part of the equation. And that is a big part of what I teach. So we teach the 6 steps of cell ascension. And I had already gotten the first couple. And once I started getting that, I started really shifting into the coding. And that's where the DMT codes came from that. And really started going deep into how do we move from something of form into something of frequency. And that we do it through the biology itself.
Okay, I'm writing this down. How, in terms of starting, okay, 2022, in terms of you starting to teach that as well, did that, and you were, okay, already kind of doing it, did it suddenly and quickly just merge together, or was it a process in figuring out how to bring all of this together?
It was very much like following the breadcrumbs. And
Okay.
this is really strange, but my door just opened all by itself. And I'm going to have to go shut it because there's a lot of noise out there. This is so,
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. This is
It's just
really
right
great.
here. I'll be right
Okay.
back.
All right, we're gonna pause for a moment. Maybe I'll hum some elevator music. Dun 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 dun. Okay, she's
I'm
back.
back.
Girl, there's lots going on this show. You like, yeah, I would say meant to be here, meant to be doing this. I don't know if that's all right. So the breadcrumbs just came together. Can what more can you tell us about that? Because in watching other stuff that you've done, you are so good at articulating and taking people more through up the process. And in 963, yeah, can you go forward with that?
Of course. Yeah. So once I had the equation, the one thing that really stuck out to me that I understood right away
Yeah.
was and this was a vision that he gave me. And there was, so he kind of took my consciousness and brought me out into like outer space, if you will, and had me looking at the earth. And he was showing me the flower of life and how everything was inverted. And so as we got closer, it's almost like we were going into the flower of life. And he
Mhm.
showed like every time my consciousness would hit one of the circles of the flower of life, he would like even let me have the experience of thinking I was outside of the matrix. And then he would like pull me out and then he would like shift me and he would go into another loop. So he was showing me that every time that we think that we've broken out of our programming, that we're actually just in another loop of programming. And on some level, I understood this
Yeah.
because I had already been working with what I call the inside out is like that you have to bring your consciousness and just like the trip, like I knew that you had to go into that pure space where observation was not through a filter or the veil or the matrix. And that
Mhm.
was not only possible, but what he was showing is that this is actually on a DNA level. And so he was showing that every time that our cell is observing its environment, that it is part of the matrix. And that's what we need to break out of. And that when we start to move in to that 12 strand DNA system, that it is an operating system where our consciousness is actually can be, I guess you could say, operated through. So one of the ways that I like to say that is you can see your consciousness is like a hammer, right? And there's two different things that can operate the hammer. And so the first thing is that you have to understand that the hammer is just the tool because we think our consciousness is who we are. It's like our identity. But it's not. Who we are is actually the pure source frequency or the intelligence that's transcribed in us. And so when we recognize that, then we have the awareness, okay, is my programming going to pick up my hammer and use it?
Mhm.
Or is this pure source intelligence going to pick it up and use it? And once we know the difference, then we allow this operating system, which I call DMT. It's not the chemical, but I call it divine molecular technology. Once we turn on this technology, in the beginning, we learn how to operate with it, because we can't just go from moving out of observing reality or ourselves or our thoughts to just holding our consciousness there. We can practice it.
Mhm.
And so when we start to co-create with this intelligence, we learn to operate it until it starts to operate us. And that's when we fully move outside of observation, or what I call the fifth level of consciousness, to when we are no longer conscious, we just become the intelligence.
So it sounds like also like a major letting go of control.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Okay.
huge part of it.
And trusting, because like that's what this evolution has been for me. It's moving into different levels of trust. And like you talking about the flower of life, that totally makes sense too. Like, oh, I just moved up, or if you went to a different frequency, but I'm still within this. And really working on breaking free. I guess that's the best way to say it too. But yeah, in terms of trusting, okay, I have a couple questions. Jules, can you do the rainbow exercise in just a minute?
Yeah,
Because I know we have the practice at the end, but that kind of it's a great way of explaining and having people feel what you're talking about. Can we do that for just a second?
of course.
All
Of
right.
course. And we'll change it up a little bit, and we'll do it as a sunflower. Okay, so
Okay.
everybody shut their eyes
Okay.
and just take a deep breath. Whew. And then imagine a sunflower. And you can see it in a field. You can maybe just see the flower. And as you're imagining the sunflower, just recognize what your body feels like. Just holding that sunflower. Okay, now open your eyes and shake it out. Okay, so now shut your eyes. And now we're going to tap into that 12-strand DNA system, and we're going to ask that the intelligence of Source release what a sunflower is. So now, instead of imagining, you're allowing this frequency of Source to show you a sunflower. You're allowing it to come to you. And now just notice how your body feels different. Having that experience of a sunflower through your divine technology. And then as you're ready, you can open your eyes. I know you just want to stay there,
Uh,
right?
Yeah, that simplicity is such a simple exercise, yet it is for me so powerful. Like it definitely shows transcending and sunflowers, like when you really look at them, I would encourage people to search for them. They are masterful. I mean, it's one of those things, like so much nature is like, oh my gosh, is that this for real? But sunflowers are just that. They are incredible. And the different tiers and the petals, and that's a great piece to bring up. Uh, oh gosh, can I even talk for a second? Um, Talk about trust and letting go in terms of this. Like, even in doing that exercise, parts of it were so easy and so harmonious. And I felt even little pockets of tension in my body release. How how did you work on that for yourself?
This it was one of the exercises that just came to me, because a big part of what I teach is recognizing where you're holding consciousness. And so when you're in imagination, or you're projecting through another example of this is you're trying to make it happen. You're going into your filing cabinet to pull out the
Yeah.
information. Well, when we do that, we know we're in what I call the third level of consciousness or down, or in our programmed body, or you could even go as far as to say our two-strand DNA system, the biology that we all experience. When we move into the fourth level of consciousness and the fifth level of consciousness is when we hold our consciousness in an abstract space where we're allowing information to come to us or through us. And that's when we really start. That's when the first part of learning to operate our divine molecular technology is in the fourth level of consciousness. And that the difference of what that feels like, not just in our feeling way, but the way our body feels, because it feels denser, right? It
Yeah.
feels like trying, it has more, it takes more energy to be there. And then when we move over into the fourth body in the fourth level of consciousness, and we're asking that that frequency is released, and then we're having the experience of that is the eternal system. That's where our body begins to ascend and starts to operate outside of needing to use energy. And we can feel that because we actually
Oh,
feel more energy afterwards. We feel more coherent. And that's where we start to receive the intelligence. And that intelligence is actually who we are. So it's so funny how we get all wrapped up on like, oh, I have to trust this, when it's the part of us that is like wanting to trust like the most intelligent part of ourselves. And it's kind of
I
funny when we
know.
think about it.
It is. It is, and it's amazing that it can be challenging, yet it is. Because I think, the programming and that we've been involved in and for so long is just it's just hard to break, but it's not. I wanted to ask you too, Jules. I in the past couple weeks have not really been eating that much. And I know that's going to be changing. So I kind of go through these cycles, but this one has been a while. What would you add to that?
That's a big part of the DMT coding that we work with, is that we start to turn on codes of nutrients, is what I call them, and that
Wow.
our body starts to operate through frequency. And so we no longer are needing the nutrients from outside of ourselves, because our body was actually never created to have to loop in any kind of cycle. Because
Yeah.
when you think about it, when you turn it inside out, everything that we see on the outside of us is actually a frequency that is stored in our DNA. And so when all of those frequencies are activated and turned on, we don't breathe, we don't eat, we don't sleep, we don't have any of the looping cycles that we're creating, because everything that we need is in an expression through the purest frequency there is, and that's source frequency. And our biology is no longer dependent on, because our body is already multidimensional, but we're only experiencing it through this two-strand DNA system. But when we move our consciousness over, because the truth is all 12 strands of DNA are already activated, they're already functioning. It's where we're holding consciousness that's actually giving us the experience of the programmed body or the programmed matrix.
So what is your life like on a daily basis?
I would say I have this saying, is that I am a spiritual being here to have a spiritual experience. Like
Oh,
I've
nice.
never really identified as human, if you will. And
Yeah.
people like, they're like, well, I just want you to have to be this certain way. They want to put, it's like they want to connect through wounds and emotion. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I
I
can't
know.
do that, because my body just, I'm just not there. My consciousness, I can't go down to have an experience to connect with you in a place that feels programmed. Because
Mhm.
even if you think about how we want to connect emotionally, emotion is a chemical response of our body that is released to either keep us safe, to keep us having babies. And if you really step back, and this is just a challenge for people, if you really step back and look at the programming of what emotion is actually doing is kind of fascinating, because it does keep us connected in a programmed world. But if you take all of that away, what would it be like to connect in a pure source connection where we don't need emotion to bring us together, because we're connected through a pure frequency? That's the evolution of mankind. That's where we're all going, because emotion is fleeting, and it's also because it's chemical, it's very programmed. You can go from loving someone to hating someone just by what you're triggered by. That's not the way we were meant to be operated. We are supposed to be in this pure source frequency where everything is through a perspective of source, where it's not power over, it's not manipulation, it's not bonding through wounds, it's not expecting somebody else to heal you. All of that is old paradigm. It's time for it to go. And I love that you started this whole space with that relationship. And there is a really pure way where
Yeah.
we're going to start to meet, even in relationships, in a space that we haven't experienced before.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's just, part of it is he, he came into my life, and I'm going to bring this up for a second, came into my life, and, I was the first person he did energy work with. So in creating my list of a potential partner, one of the things was, that they were familiar with any energy work and all that. But he's clicking with it so
Mhm.
fast. Um, and the energy between us is so incredible. Yet I also express, like, this is new for me. And I told him too, I'm gonna hand it's such, I feel such a big deal for not only me and him, but for the world too. So I am, gosh, how do I even say this, Jules? I'm handling it to the best of my ability, not rushing into anything. Also knowing that I don't know all that I'm doing, but there are certain things that I do know with energy and ascension and all that. So I am, why are the words so hard right now? Um, not controlling it. Okay, so we talk about control, trusting it and trusting myself, yet having never been here before, I'm not quite sure what that is. So I'm like constantly, will you please work with me? Can we put a hold on this? Can we take this slowly? Well, and the old pair for men too. Well, we're supposed to do this now. We're supposed to move into this. And I keep going, no, we can move into that, but we need to explore this. And he's looking at me sometimes going, what the freak is this? Who are you? And I'm like, but at the same time, trusting me, even though he fights it some, but then backing off. Was that, does that make sense at all?
I love that you are staying in the space of exploring, because
Thank
that
you.
is that's the key right there. It's not putting it in a box of the way that we've created a relationship through the matrix, but exploring, well, what is it? Like, what is it here? And then
Right.
when you hit that and you self-actualize, okay, well, what is it next? What is it next? And then it's always evolving to that pure source frequency, right? Because when we get there, we don't know what that's going to be.
Right. Or the experience of love that we've thought. What is pure love like? And again, trusting that, because there's also this part that goes, oh, you can't fully trust and you can't fully open up and be vulnerable. And this is, yes, you can, but it takes guts right now, and it's more challenging because it's so hard to let go of some of that stuff that we thought was true and that we thought made us. And oh God, Jules, thank you so much for talking about that too. All right, with you saying I'm a spiritual being having a spiritual experience, knowing that this great awakening is also about humanity ascending in our bodies as human beings, how do you transverse that for you?
Well, I think that's the biggest piece, is that we all, I would say, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying everybody, but those that are here and walking the earth, that know that we are in a programmed experience. And a lot of times we'll see that as our reality. but our body is also programmed. It's part of that reality. And so when we identify as humans through the program of the matrix, then we're having a programmed human experience. That's not what we were meant to experience, and like really feel in your body. Because when most of the time when somebody hears that, they're like, oh my God, I know that's true,
Yeah.
right? Your body knows that it's more than what you're experiencing. If you've ever had a thought of, you know, I should be able to heal instantly, I should be able to manifest instantly, the like, I know I'm not supposed to age. You look in the mirror and you're like, what is happening? It's like, because we know, I mean, and this isn't knowing in the mind,
Yeah.
this isn't knowing through the body that that isn't true. If you know that, you know that. And so it's not even that you have to anything to trust. You just have to remember, because what your body knows on this multidimensional level is a remembering. And remembering something is so much easier than learning something. And so we
Yeah.
just start asking, show me what this really is, show me what this really is. And then our body starts to turn on, because our body wants us to know what it is. Because we have to remember, our body, when it's fully activated, is a divine intelligence. It is a biology. It's a divine biology, if you will, not biology in what we experience right now. What we really are is not what we think we are. And I think if we finally just like let go of putting ourselves in this box of like, this is what love is, and this is what aging is, and this
Yeah.
is this, and we're constantly having to name everything. Instead, we start asking, what is it really? What is it really? What is it really? Every time we hit it and we think we know what it is, okay, thank you. Now what is it? Now what is
Okay.
it? And then we constantly allow ourselves to evolve.
Okay. And just like you said, continually allow yourself to just explore and to really, really embody that nothing is real unless we make it real. Okay. Tell me what you think about this. Nothing is real unless we make it real, but we can continually expand what that reality is. And I believe right now there's no rooftop or no ceiling. Okay, that it can just go and go and go. I love the okay. So also with spirits and higher beings, knowing that right now that just to ask for their support, you have to ask because it's there. But the same thing with show me. I love that for me in my all of my relationships and just again more of that trusting and freaking just letting go because and there was one show that you were on where you were talking about your telomeres. So I used to teach a lot of corporate classes unbelievably before COVID hit. And I used to talk about telomeres all the time, but I haven't even talked about them in a long time. So yeah, can you explain that for everybody?
Yeah, so our telomeres, for those that people that don't know what they are, they're little caps at the end of the DNA, and as we age, they start to fray. Like you can see it like the end of a old shoelace, how it starts to kind of fray and go down. And when they completely fray or go all the way down, is when we lose life or we die. And but telomeres are a great way of indicating. You can tell how long a telomere is will depend on what your age you are. So you can
Yeah.
look through the two-strand DNA biology and study it and look at a telomere, and a scientist would be able to say, yeah, that person's probably about 30 years old, let's say. But with biohacking and doing certain things, and now bringing in frequency and activating frequencies in the body on a cellular level, we have the ability to extend our telomeres. And I did a practice where I did a telomere test, and I was measured at 37 years old. And then through the DMT coding and my particle accelerator, which is a frequency-based supplement, I was able to, in 10 months, take it from 37 to 19 years old with that telomere test, which is an actual, you take your blood and you send it in, and they will study the blood and be able to tell you what your telomere length is.
Okay, so very scientific and proving that because I know when so one of my things is teaching meditation that when you do meditation, your telomeres change and alter. And you are essentially living proof that you can reverse aging, that we're not supposed to do that. I heard someone say too, which I really enjoyed this, that aging is a disease. I thought that was really okay. So you're shaking your head. What would you say to that?
Well, there's a couple of different ways you could look at that. I would even take it a step further, is aging
Okay.
is a disease of consciousness.
Oh,
It's
nice.
where we're holding consciousness is the disease itself. And, you can even look at Bruce Lipton's work of that our thoughts are creating environment and our cells are listening. And this is where I think that that's where the disease starts, is that we are stuck in this belief system and our cells are listening and are mutating over timelines. But it's not even just that. It's also that because we are holding consciousness in a program where that is true, we have that becomes the disease as well. Like, I mean, really, if you think about it, the matrix is the disease. But the other space that I like to look at it is that when our body is out of harmony, dis-ease,
Yeah.
or our consciousness is out dis-ease, that we have somewhere to go. And those are just indicators, right? That's our feedback from our divine biology that's saying you're out of alignment. So if we look at it from that place, every time that we use consciousness in a way of first having the awareness, am I in disease? Like, am I in a space where I'm out of harmony? And most of us are living our life that way all the time because we think it's normal, but it's
Mm.
not. And so then it just becomes feedback. Oh, I need to just go back in. I need to go back in. And then what happens is every time that we do that, our consciousness moves into that pure space. Like we get on top of the trip, right? But we're doing it on a DNA level. And then all of a sudden, our cells start to operate differently. They stop observing the environment and start identifying as source. And then you can imagine what happens. We stop mutating, because in that space, there is no observation, there is no time, and our consciousness can have that experience. And that's why it's so important to learn how to hold consciousness in this operating system, and to learn how to allow it to eventually operate us. And that's where people are like, whoa, what does that even mean? But it's when we move
Yeah.
from belief to faith to embodiment. And once we embody that frequency as who we are, we become divine technology. We don't have consciousness at that point. There's no need for it. It's kind of a wild thing to think about, right?
It is. For those who are watching, when my eyes go up, just thinking, and I'm doing that a lot on this show. You you were in Vogue magazine.
Yeah,
Is that
BioQuantum.
right?
It was we were mentioned in Vogue as for our skincare line, as a
Yeah.
scalar frequency skincare line.
My gracious. It's just a 3D magazine
I
to an
know, right?
extent. Yeah. Tell when you were talking about your products. So there was one, so you have a supplement that you
Mhm.
consume. Okay, tell us what you offer.
Oh my gosh, it's everything. So just know when you come in, it's just important to know, like, okay, why am I here? So
Yeah.
everything that we offer is to turn on this divine technology, and to turn it on a frequency level, because once that turns on, our consciousness has the experience last, because it starts to operate, and then all of a sudden our consciousness will hit, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is happening, oh my gosh. So it kind of starts to like activate all these frequencies, and then we kind of hit it and have the experience. So
Okay.
everything that we have is for that reason. So we have everywhere from a skincare, which has the Ormus in it. We can talk a little bit about Ormus if you want.
Yeah,
It
please.
also has the evolution technology. So Ormus is another huge thing that we well, it's an alchemy. So Ormus stands for orbited, rearranged, monoatomic element or unidentified substance.
Mhm.
It is an alchemy where you take elements and take them from a physicality or form and bring them into a multidimensional space. And so the atoms actually begin to spin. So in a normal element, when you would look at it, you would see the atoms and they're going to be structured and well, they're just form. When you move over and you put it into a monoatomic state, the atoms actually spin. And so that what that looks like is that 1 minute you'll see it and you can be like, oh, that's going to be the element of gold. And then it disappears.
Mm-hmm.
It literally goes multidimensional and then it comes back. It's in a spin state. So Ormus is something that you can bring into your life. So we do it through the skin because the skin is the one organ that is the reflection we're always looking at. And so when we're adding Ormus to our skin, we start to break those spaces of observation. But Ormus is amazing for anti-aging. It helps extend those telomeres. It activates higher consciousness. It reminds our body and the consciousness that we are both form and spirit on a physical level, that we have the ability to move from form to energy in just a blink of an eye, that we're always both at the same time. So some of the things that it can do are, like, I actually just had a lady that saw me on Dave Asprey's show, and she got it to see if she could get rid of the dark spots on her arm. And she is just like blown away of what it's been able to do. She's like, everybody told me it wasn't able to do this without actually bleaching the skin, but it's healing. It's actually healing, and it's bringing her body back into harmony. I've had like broken bones that are healed like within a day. And
Within a
it's not
day.
always,
Wow.
I've actually had that experience myself. And it's not always, it's always going to be, everybody has their own little experience
Right.
with it, but it is something, it's like one of those elements where it will hit you with exactly what you need to experience, and it is magical. And so we have Ormus in all of our products that are like, we have essential oils, we have like our skincare line, and then we also have like our Ormus line. So we have like 6 different frequencies of Ormus.
Okay. If someone was going to get started, what would you recommend?
It just depends on where they're coming in at. If
Person.
they're wanting something like change up their skincare line and have beautiful skin, start with the skincare. It's just a simple way to start introducing the frequency into the body and connecting to Ormus. If you're wanting something more high, like Ascension, I would go with just straight up Ormus, just bring it into your life. And then we also have our DMT codes, which is this is a scalar technology where you can actually start to turn on the DNA with the different codes. So each code is connected to the way that our body is operating. So it's kind of taking us from uh, well, even codes of nutrients, those will all be within here. So you can kind of go deeper into what that experience is. But this is one of our most popular
Okay.
products
So let me
because,
stop just a moment for those who can't see. So Jules is holding up look like a credit card. It looks like a credit card. Can you explain that visually?
yeah, so up here, this one's kind of beat up because I use it so much, but you'll see the technology. So this is the evolution scalar technology. So this is what is working with the DNA to shift the cells from observing its environment to identifying as the technology itself, or divine intelligence, if you will. So
Okay.
it's working on a cellular level or DNA level. These are all the DMT codes. So these are turning on the 12 strands of DNA. And so for instance, you can press on, let's do one's maybe a physical. So let's say you pull a muscle.
Okay.
So the 3, you would use the 3, no, 2, 3, and 4. So the 2 is connected to the fascia. And then the 3 is connected to the muscle and the 4 is connected to
Wow.
the bone. And so it's turning the body on so that the body identifies the fascia, the muscle, and the bone through pure source frequency, so that you turn those on, and then all of a sudden the body is moving out of seeing it through that two-strand biology to actually a multidimensional experience, and your body will start to move into that frequency, and you heal a lot faster because your body can turn on the frequency of all 12 strands, and not just trying to heal through the biology, it's healing through all of the multidimensional frequency of that. So that's just an example of how you could, but on the back, you'll see we have 10 quick codes. So
Okay.
you can do a shift for
Okay, and let
overcome.
me go ahead and interrupt. So in the front, they're like the scalar technology, and at the top, and then they're like 12 like kind of circles that you press on. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so each one of them is a different code. So they
Okay.
each are connected to a number too. So once you learn, it's actually a language almost, because once you learn the language, you can see the code and you're like, oh yeah, that's an 8, and that's connected to the divine manifester. That's what I would press on if I need flow. But there's 12 codes on the back. So one's for abundance, one's for manifesting, one's I need more energy, I need sleep. So they have like very practical things that you can, and then you'll go and you'll turn it on. So you'll put your thumb on it and you'll press on it for, just like 10 seconds. And then you'll do the 6 codes, and then your body is activated. Just a fun little thing I did one for a good parking spot. I was like, I'm just going to see if it
Right.
works. And to this day, that was like months ago. To this day, I always get the best parking spots.
Well, that's kind of important. You know what? I would like to move into another practice in a moment. It is so neat right now, the expansiveness of tools that are there to help you, and things that, we are moving into the spot of trusting these beautiful divine gifts that are given to us. And thank you, Jules, so much for your mission. Again, her mission to ascend the body, mind, and reality by awakening DNA, opening the gateway to limitless possibilities through advanced human experience. I think you're doing that really well. So thank you.
Just be
Okay, can you close us
practice.
out doing another type of ascension exercise, whatever feels good for you today?
What do I want to do? I have my codes here. So
Okay,
I'm just going to pull 3 codes for what your collective is needing, and we'll just do an activation with it.
perfect.
All right. So I'll just pull them real quick, and then we'll do the activation where you can see them. Okay. So I'll have you look at the codes, because it's kind of a fun experience to be able to look at it. So this first code is the 7. So I want you to just see the code, to just move right in through your third eye and then into the pineal gland. And then once it moves into the pineal gland, you can shut your eyes and just allow the code to spin. And this code is opening up that divine channel of communication with source, that direct phone line to source intelligence. So just turning on that frequency, and you're going to feel it in your whole entire body. Like your body will start to light up like almost like an electric light show as this technology begins to turn on in your body. Just having that experience. And then we're going to activate the DMT code number 2. So again, if you want to open your eyes and look at the code and allow it to move in through your third eye and into the pineal gland. And if you're just listening to this, just know that it's happening for you. Your body already knows these frequencies. And this code is holding that bridge between form and spirit. It is holding the communication from your divine technology to your consciousness, the connection between your consciousness and the pure source frequency of who you are at the core. Just allowing that code to activate in every cell of your body as it creates a divine communion. And then we'll activate the 5, allowing this code as it enters through your third eye into the pineal gland, allowing it to spin as it activates every cell of the body. And this code is creating a shift. It's allowing your body to become that advanced system, creating momentum, inspiration, enthusiasm, opening up those channels so that you can have the experience of who you are on a multidimensional level through your biology. And if there's something in your life that you're wanting to breathe energy into, to open up that maybe clarity, this is a perfect code. So if you'd like to, just place your hands on your heart space and put your intention there and allow these codes to bring that intention into this new software system that's just turned on, as even to run your intention through these frequencies where your clarity comes in, you're easily able to hear the information, and that the 5, that 5th code, brings it into momentum, allowing you to become the person that you need to be to have that experience. And then just taking in a deep breath, just having the experience of what your body feels like for just a moment. And then just staying open and curious and allowing, just like you allowed the sunflower to come in, allow the codes to inform your consciousness. You don't have to understand how, you just allow it. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
So good. I have to tell you, Jules, last night in doing one of your exercises, I went into it having some stomach pains. I just eaten something, like it happened right after it. And I've experienced this before. So usually I'll lay down and it gets better, but it just continues. I did some of your exercises. It went away. That has never happened before. And I also I feel pretty certain that you're not selling your products just to make, I mean, right now, energetically, it's still, we're in this 3D world, regardless of where you are, and bringing in abundance and money. I do not feel that your products are, oh, I'm selling this and I'm selling. No, they feel, they feel incredibly legit, which is awesome. Do you mind? I'll share your website too on screen. Do you mind sharing it also?
Yeah, it just go to becomingbioquantum.com.
Okay. All right. This is where I typically thank people for coming on the show. If you can hang out with me in a moment when we stop recording. Yet, thank you also. I feel like at this point from the show, my intention is also that it accelerates with every guest that comes on. So thank you for leading that, and for, just bringing you here. It was such a pleasure to meet you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Do you mind if I just do one more shout out while we're
Oh,
here?
of course.
So I am not sure when this is going to go live,
Two
but
weeks.
2 weeks. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect timing. So I have my book coming out, at Becoming
Yes.
BioQuantum, and I'm going to be doing a BioQuantum activation tour where I'm going to be touring. I'm going to start on the East Coast and go all the way down. So stay tuned for that, because I could be in your area, and we're going to be doing free workshops and DNA activations, and just really kind of, our mission is to awaken and raise the frequency and just really hit the ground and connect with people. And so on the website, we will, once we know every location that we'll be in, we'll be announcing that, and we'd love to have you join us and give
Thank
quantum
you.
hugs.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. And I'll probably is maybe I can talk to your sister, but we'll talk about this offline. Hey, Vale, I also want to thank you again for showing up and bringing your energy too, because I felt that a lot. Really super. All right, y'all, stay tuned next week. See you, Jules. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. She did a heart and then on screen and did hearts. All right, bye. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.